Welcome to my Moon Power Musings. And today we're joined by Alice Carter, embodied business coach and emotional alchemist. And today we're going to be discussing business through the feminine lens and through the lens of cyclical connection as well. And so how to be a female entrepreneur, how to work with your cycles, and how to totally just like win on all levels of your business. And oh my God, Alice, I am so excited for this conversation. I feel like that this is something that I'm personally really deeply working on at the moment, and finding like the struggles, and then sometimes being in flow, sometimes being out of flow, and then like knowing when to push and like when to like let myself rest, and like it's so intricate. And I feel like that in business we're often taught of this kind of like go do, and if we look at like the way how everything's set up, and even like the way that we've been at school and how we're constantly encouraged to show up a certain way every day. And so I find like what you're teaching and what you're embodying like so deeply refreshing. So I can't wait for this conversation because I feel like I'm going to learn loads as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to come and talk to you about this as well. This is something that I could talk about all day long. So let's see what comes out in the moment.
Yeah, amazing. So let's, first of all, how did you get into this? Like what put you on this track, and like how have you created the business that you do?
So my journey really began probably in my early 20s when I lost my best friend in a traveling accident. And it was such a shock to the system that it really kind of just it just reframed everything that I knew. I was working in television at the time. And yeah, I just felt like my world had ended, and for a good year after she died, I felt like I didn't want to be here either, because without her, I couldn't make sense of the world. She was my best friend. She was the person that I journeyed through this life with, and then she wasn't there anymore, and things didn't feel that they made sense. And then about almost exactly a year after she died, I actually got hit by a black cab when I was crossing the road in London. And so I got flipped up into the air and I was unconscious, and I came around in an ambulance and I had my neck in a brace and I couldn't feel anything from the waist down. And I was just laughing, ecstatically laughing. And I remember the paramedic just looking at me and going, "What are you laughing at?" And I was just like, "I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive." And I was literally just like, for the first time in a year, I actually felt grateful to be alive. And I knew in that moment that something powerful had happened and I was here for a reason. And I didn't know what the fuck that reason was, but I needed to find out what it was. And so I went on this, deep journey of my own kind of healing and purpose finding. And I came to coaching and I just loved it. I was on a retreat and I met a coach and she told me what she did. And I was like, hang on a minute. I was like, I've been doing that my whole life. You mean to tell me I can get paid for this and it can be a career? What? Best moment ever, because I was like, I love coaching. That is me. You were literally describing me. What the hell? So I was like, okay, I'm going to go and, actually train in this and make sure that I got it right. And it is what I think it is and all of that. And had to overcome quite a few like money blocks in that as well, in terms of investing in myself, as a lot of women do. But worked through that, did the training, loved it from start to finish, and then realized that there was kind of something missing in that they weren't addressing the emotional side of things and the nervous system and all of that. So I then went and trained in that as well. And then as I was kind of coaching people and kind of organically just discovering who I was as a coach, people started coming to me and asking me to help them with their websites and with the business side of things, because my background is in journalism and social media marketing. So that was kind of skills that I already had. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute, this really makes sense. Actually, I can bring the old part of me, the things that I still love, but use them for good and for something that feels like my purpose, which is supporting women who work with either people or planet to really get themselves out there and work through any emotional blocks they might have to doing that, but also the strategy side of things, And so it just really, really organically kind of happened for me, like step by step, person by person. Um, and yeah, that's kind of led me to where I am now, 6 years later. I have a group program, I have a membership community, and I work one-to-one, I run retreats and do workshops as well. So yeah, it's just really blossomed.
Oh my God, amazing, amazing. And I love what you've addressed already, because so many of us have this issue around that we have a service and we have a skill and we have a gift that we want to share, but then there's so much around being seen, showing up, like allowing yourself to come forward. It can be deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And so how do you work with women around that?
So this is really, really deeply ingrained stuff, and it's
Mm,
coming from an evolutionary place. We have our nervous system thinks that it's protecting us from kind of standing out, and that's what we've been taught. It's coming from a nervous system place in the body, but it's also coming from a conditioning and a programming place. The phrase "the tallest poppy is always cut." And I think particularly for women, we've been taught to not shine. And I'm even remembering, times at school when I was singing in the choir and I got told, "Oh, Alice, you're being a bit too loud," or "Oh, you're asking too many questions in class." And I remember thinking, what? Like, I'm literally just being me. What are you talking about? And it never made sense to me. And that was as a child, I could see that didn't make sense. But I think as you get older, for a lot of people, these things become very ingrained. And then when you come to start your business in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, all of a sudden you're confronted with this, deeply ingrained conditioning, and also this nervous system piece of actually your nervous system thinking and feeling that it's unsafe to be seen, that it's unsafe to speak out how you feel. A lot of the women that I work with, in their families, they haven't felt safe to be seen, they haven't felt safe to speak out. And so this is really, really deep stuff. And the way that I work with it is a blend really of working with mindset coaching. So around what is your relationship with yourself? What are you saying to yourself? What are some of those layers of conditioning that need to be kind of unpacked and let go of? And also in a nervous system way. So I use EFT tapping and emotional release to actually get your nervous system in a place where it feels like, okay, this might be an edge, but it's not outside of my window of tolerance. Like, I can do this, and it feels scary, but it also feels exhilarating, and start to kind of grow in that way, step by step.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, I feel that the nervous system, like so many people are talking about the nervous system now, and it's like it's so in our awareness. And I notice myself so much more, like, whoa, when my nervous system goes off, and I'm like, and then coming back and like regulating myself again. And it's like such a dance, and it's like you have to be constantly aware of what's going on in your inner landscape. So will you talk us a bit about EFT and emotional release and how that works with the nervous system? Maybe also for those that don't know as well, give like a little bit of an overview of why it's important to know about this stuff.
Yeah, and I think in a business context, I think the reason why I am teaching embodied business, particularly why it excites me to do that in a business context, is because so far, most of our business teachings and business structures and systems have been very masculine, very much the go, very much like, just fucking do it, push through, rah. And like, I don't know about you, but that's not resonating, that's not turning me on at all.
Not at all. I'm like, I think I need to lie down, star shape.
Exactly. And so for me, it's really important for it to not be about that. And even though, so the program that I'll talk about in a bit that I take people through is moving them from fear to freedom. And it's a big leap, it's a big journey you're going through, but it's really about titrating that and doing that in a very gentle way where you're not pushing through your own boundaries and you're not abandoning yourself in order to reach your goal, which I think is what we're essentially taught to do, but actually reaching it in a way that feels enjoyable and pleasurable as well. So EFT is one of the tools that I use for that, and that stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's also known as tapping. Sometimes people might know it. And you're basically tapping on acupressure points on the face and on the body. And at the same time, you're speaking out loud, whatever it is that's coming up for you. So the idea of it is that you're kind of clearing everything out that needs to come out, and also regulating the nervous system, because the actual practice of tapping on the acupressure points is a little bit like acupuncture, but without the needles. And so it's actually regulating the nervous system. It's bringing down your cortisol levels, your adrenaline levels, and it's really bringing you into that place of spaciousness and restfulness and calm, peace and connectedness. We need this as well. You need to be in this space in order to connect with people, and that's essentially what you're wanting to do through your business. When you're building your brand, you're wanting to connect with your audience, with your people, with your clients. So use EFT to help to do that, essentially.
I love that. Oh, so good. Yeah, every time that I've tapped, it's actually been really, really helpful. But for me, I always forget about it, and I need to remember.
Yeah, and I think for me, the reason.
No,
go on.
It's more when you're activated, everything flies out the window. Like all of the things that you're like, oh, this would be really helpful. It's like my mind just will go blank and I'll forget.
And I think for me, the reason EFT became so important in my journey was that when I was just about to launch my business, so I'd like done my training, I'd done my website, all the ducks were in a row, and I was like, okay, I just had this, like, I was on a retreat actually, and I just had this massive surge of fear come up, and I woke up in the morning and I literally felt like someone was sitting on my chest. And I think I now know that I was kind of in a freeze state essentially, and I was just like, oh, I can't do this, like this is way too scary. I don't want to be seen in this way. Like it just felt like too much. And then I had an EFT session on that retreat, and I started to tap on this. And what actually came up for me was a lot of grief, fear of grief around moving from my 9 to 5 into working for myself and leaving kind of that old life behind, the people, the culture, television, all of that, and moving into kind of being a solo entrepreneur. And my body was recognizing that as, oh my God, I'm going to have to grieve again. And we don't want to do that again, because that's what we did when Rita died. And that was horrendous. So you can't go there. You can't do that. That's unsafe. And I just started crying in the session, crying, like literally snot running down my face, like the whole lot. But afterwards, I was like, oh. And then I kind of tuned in and I was like, I'm not afraid anymore. And I was like, what just happened? Like, what is this due to? And I left the session and I was literally like, right, I'm doing it now. And obviously down the line, different fears and things started to come up again, but I knew that technique was really powerful for me. And I think it was also working with a practitioner, because in that space, I'd felt safe enough to really, really go there. So whilst EFT is definitely something that you can do on your own, like meditation or something, I do personally find that working with a practitioner is where you can go really, really deep and really excavate what it is that needs to come out. And I have a practitioner that I see, and that's what I do every single time I get to one of those blocks. And I think, oh my God, because every time you up level in your business, it's like, new level, new devil. There's always something block that wants to stop you in your tracks. So having something that you can kind of go to, it's really helpful.
I love that, new level, new devil. I'm going to take that one on. Wow, amazing. Goodness. And I really agree with you as well. I think that when we're in these held containers, you can drop down into such a much more deeper level than when you're by yourself. It's because somebody else is holding that space for you. So there's a safety that it's like, it's okay to let go, and like, and you give yourself that spaciousness. And sometimes when we're on our own, it's like, you're like, oh, can I go there?
Yeah, absolutely resonating with that very deeply. And it's also coming back to the nervous system as well. We're meant to be with other people, so we're co-regulating when we're held in a space. And also, if you're held by somebody who has already done what you want to do, so the person who was doing this happened with me, she already was an entrepreneur, she already was doing it. And so actually my mirror neurons as well, we're kind of recognizing that and going, okay, this is safe, we can do this. It seems like magic, but actually there are like scientific reasons for it. I'm very much like of the two worlds. I love science and I love the woo. I'm just like, love it when they come together even more.
Yeah, me too. I love it. And then can we talk a bit about how you have created your business within your cycle, and how you're working with your menstrual cycle and your business, and how they flow together?
Yeah, so I have had endometriosis for many years. So I've been on a really, really big journey of that, and I've had cysts removed. I've had, all sorts of procedures. I've had about 3 operations now, I think, in my womb space. So I've really walked that path.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I came to looking at cycle syncing and trying to figure out, okay, how can I support myself with this? And also just kind of noticing. So when I started to do that, when I started to track, I kind of noticed not only how it was supporting me in my personal life, but actually how it then imprinted on my business as well and impacted my business. And so I think noticing those patterns then enabled me to go, okay, so there's certain things at certain times of the month. For example, the first thing for me was like, okay, when I'm bleeding, I am not working at all. And that was actually like a really huge thing for me. Because I remember when I was in my 9 to 5 and I had to go to the office, honestly, like there was sometimes when I'd be on the bathroom floor, like in agony, and they'd have to call me a taxi to get home. And like, it just wasn't okay. And that was one of the drivers for me actually of leaving that 9 to 5 world, and one of the personal drivers, purpose drivers as well, but one of the personal drivers was actually, I want to be able to look after myself when I'm on my bleed and not have to do, anybody else's schedule ever, actually, not just when I'm on my bleed, but yeah. And so that was the first thing. I was like, okay, I'm not working at all. And I have that in my contracts. So I explain as well why in my contracts. And I think I do that also as an example for others as well. And I've had lots of women that I work with go, oh my God, I love that. Like, I'm going to also do that in my business. And I'm like, great, that's amazing.
So go into that a little bit more. So exactly, so you get your period, and then let's say that you've got a session that day, you'd email the person you're having the session with and say, I'm bleeding, so we'll postpone.
Exactly. Yeah. And everybody has been, amazingly receptive to that, I suppose, because I do work with mostly women, so they totally get it, and they often want to adopt that to their own life as well. And even for my group program as well, that felt like a bigger edge, because I was like, oh my God, I've got like 10 to 20 people waiting on me, and how am I going to say I can't do the session? And I was like, no, like this is what my body's asking for, and this is what I am teaching, and so therefore I need to embody it. And so I have that in my contract. If one of the group calls falls on my bleeds, I'll be taking that off. It'll be rescheduled for a few days later. And yeah, it's just, and I think since I've done that, like that was the first step to me being in such a better place in terms of the pain and the health of my womb as well. So yeah, I think it's just having those boundaries was a big part for me. And then also things like, during ovulation, that's when I'll schedule things like this, like when I'm feeling great and like want to be seen and heard and be sociable. Whereas if I tried to do one, when I was just before my bleed, I'd just be like, oh, hello. It wouldn't quite have the same vibe to it.
I know, because I've sometimes I feel the musings when I've got my bleed time, and I'm like so kind of like cozy, and like I feel like my eyes are all like slitty as well.
And that can have, there's parts of that can be really great for other things. So like sometimes I've noticed if I have a one-to-one client call when I'm just before my bleed, it's like I'm in some sort of like portal of like a divine energy coming through. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I'll just channel the most potent questions. And they're like, oh my God, how did you know that? Or how did you ask, what made you ask that? And I'm like, just like where I'm at in my cycle, I guess.
Wow, amazing. And then what's the rest of your work schedule like? Like, how do you organize yourself?
Yeah, so usually in my springtime, so for me, I like to use the spring, summer, autumn, winter model for cycle tracking, and during my spring, I find that literally almost the minute my bleed has ended, that's when my ideas come through. So creation mode is like full force. I'm literally like I can't write fast enough. There's like posts coming through. There's ideas for new modules in my program. There's like all sorts of stuff. So really like allowing myself to have some white space in the diary around that time. So not rushing to get back into client calls, not rushing to get into anything else. Basically, just allowing myself to have those few days to really capture that creative essence coming through.
Amazing. Wow. And then then you're in ovulation, and then that would be more of your one-to-ones.
Exactly. events, like more like podcast events, speaking on stages, things where it's like really being seen and being in my full kind of sociable energy. Yeah.
Amazing. And then what about your luteal phase, the autumn? What do you do in that
Yeah,
one?
so like I say, I find that my client calls are particularly potent during that time.
Right. That's the time when they're pregnant. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe just because I'm so relaxed as well, you know, so my nervous system is relaxing more easily. And so things can kind of flow through. And I feel very present and still. And that's obviously really good for coaching sessions. And don't get me wrong, I coach, you know, all through my cycle, apart from on my bleed. But I've just noticed that when one falls within that phase, it's like fire.
I love it. Amazing. And then, so when do you teach this in part of your program?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I've thought about doing like an actual program specifically for this because there's so much you can go into. But I haven't, but it's a part of, it comes up a lot of the time anyway, just in one-to-one calls actually, and in my group program calls, because with my group program First Freedom, we have live calls every other week. And so stuff comes up in those calls that's to do with the modules, which is basically moving you from fear to freedom in your business. So moving through any fear that's coming up, any shame, any emotional blocks that are stopping you from getting out there into the world and sharing your message and growing your business. And also the strategy pieces. So they're kind of following along the different modules and working through stuff. But in the live calls, it tends to be, you know, similar themes that come up again and again. So there'll be things around self-doubt, the inner critic, emotional blocks, strategy pieces, and this piece, you know, feminine embodied business. So things around their cycle, and how to do business from a place of enjoyment and pleasure, you know, rather than more in your flow than in your go. And also, though, I have to say, the other end of that spectrum, which is that a lot of the women that I work with, because they are kind of spiritual and feminine and they're in that already, they actually struggle with being more in the go. And so then working on that as well and making sure that they have that, the masculine and the feminine balance. So the masculine, I would say, is like the strategy and the holding of what you're doing, and knowing, you know, what steps you're going to take to actually get your business more visible and get more clients and all of that. And then the feminine is the creativity within that. And so it's really about balancing the two, whichever end of the scale that you're more naturally on.
Wow, amazing. I love that. I definitely fall more into the feminine one. And like pulling up my masculine and like creating structure has been definitely the one that I've been working on and continue to work on. Because oftentimes I feel like sometimes I can only do what I feel like doing. And so I might have like, right, I need to do this, but then I might feel like doing that. And so I have to do the feel. And that was quite interesting. When I wrote my book, I could only write about what I felt on that day. So for me, it was very difficult, like doing a structure. I mean, like, right, today I'm doing this, and this. It was like, today I'm feeling this, and so I would have to do that. So
Actually, I completely resonate with that. And when I say structure, I mean less. I actually feel like that for me, like I would be exactly the same. Like I can't tell myself what I'm going to do before I do it, because it's just like it doesn't feel authentic. So part of being in embodied business is doing that. It's going with your intuition. It's going with what you want to do. But what I'm more talking about in terms of the masculine is like the strategy pieces. So, you know, a lot of people might not know, okay, I feel like I want to share something on social media. I know that's what I'm meant to be doing. I feel an energy for it, but what am I supposed to say? Or like, what are the, you know, different areas I should be hitting? What's actually going to make people not just follow me and be inspired by me, but actually come and work with me and buy my things, right? So it's getting that, it's like, that's what I cover in Fit to Freedom. It's like getting that bit right as well.
Wow, amazing. Oh, sounds so good. And then you touch a little bit on the pleasure. And so through, whenever I look at Alice's Instagram, by the way, I'm literally like, she is living her best life. It's like so vibrant, so fun. Like you're always dancing and laughing. And like I can like feel the pleasure like exuberating from you. And it's like, like every time I look, I'm just like, yeah, I want that. I want that. Like, how have you made the moves, and what do you do on the daily to make sure that you're living from a place of pleasure and like that your business is pleasurable? Like, Yeah, talk about that, please.
So, first of all, I do just want to say, obviously, we all know that Instagram is a highlights reel. So that is not me every single day, like absolutely not. I think it is me, it genuinely is me a lot of the time. And I think that part of that comes with allowing myself to have those off moments and those off days, and really, you know, the emotional release part is super important to this. So when I started doing EFT and I started actually allowing myself to feel my emotions, it was a game changer for me. I'd spent years stuffing it down. I had depression during my teenage years, which obviously got worse when I lost my best friend. So I had a lot of shit in there that I needed to like get out. And so dance is one of the ways that I do that as well. Emotional release techniques and also EFT. And I think that when I started to do that, that then opened up the possibility for more joy and more pleasure. Because whilst ever we're kind of up to here with, you know, the uncomfortable stuff, there's almost like no room for it. And so that was my journey, and it might be different for others, but just really allowing, and it's still ongoing. Obviously, I have days, you know, when I feel like absolute shit still, and I just really allow myself to be in the shit, like just really feel it and express it, and give myself that spaciousness around in my business as well. So I'm not having to show up and do anything when I'm in those spaces as well. I can actually like, and I think a lot of that comes down to as well, which is a really big one for a lot of female entrepreneurs, is pricing. You know, right from the beginning of my business, I priced my one-to-ones at a rate that felt like that feels good for me, because it means I'm not going to have to be trying to squeeze in like 5 clients a day or something. I was like, I want 3 to 5 clients a week and no more. And so I priced accordingly. And I think it's just having those boundaries and being rooted in your worth and being able to do that then opens up all this spaciousness in your diary. You know, like Mondays I go to the spa, I do hot yoga, go to the spa, go for a walk. Like every day I do something for my body. Sometimes it might be self-pleasure practices, other times it might be ecstatic dance, sometimes it might be just spending time with my partner and like co-regulating with her, and you know, making love and making food and all of the things that we want to do. And then also travel is really important for me, and that's like one of my kind of needs and desires that I always make sure I'm fulfilling. So during the winter months, I am usually not in the UK. I usually travel somewhere. I'm in Tulum right now, somewhere where it's sunny, essentially, because the sun for me is just such a life giver. And I always find that when I'm in the sun, like my sales process becomes more easy and easeful and joyful. And it's because I'm in that space where I'm feeling abundant and excited and turned on, and people can feel that. And so I think often we can think, oh, when I reach 5K months or when I reach 10K months, I'm going to do this. No, like do that thing first, and it will start to come through.
Yeah, that's such good advice. Wow. And then, so with the emotional release techniques, that's different from the EFT. So what is, so you mentioned dancing as one of the things that you do. What are the other things?
So literally just allowing yourself to feel your emotions. So, you know, anger is a big one for a lot of women that is suppressed. And there's a technique that I use. I can do it now if you want. I don't want to. I always like prepare people that I'm going to do it and say, I'm not angry at you. This is not at you. Just like put yourself in your little bubble. And you can do it with me. I'll do it a few times. So you just breathe in, and you're really like tuning into your gut here and your womb space, because we hold a lot there. And breathe in. Yeah, really make that sound like, let's do it again.
I'm just laughing, babe. Can I just say something quickly? Okay, this is my cat, right? And I literally learned that from her. I'm not even joking. She totally is like, and when I get annoyed, I'm like,
yeah,
I learned it from her.
It's really satisfying. It's just like, oh, get it all out.
Okay, let's do it again though. Okay.
She's like, tail wiggling around. She's like, hey, learn it from me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and just having the space, like giving yourself a space to do that. A lot of people do like screaming into pillows and stuff, but I find that's not great for my throat. So that one feels much better for me. But also like punching pillows, throwing pillows, anything that just allows you to move the energy, shaking, tapping all over the body as well. And then
Yeah.
sadness, you know, a lot of the time, a lot of sadness is held in
Yeah.
the heart space, and tapping's a really good one for sadness. Like, I literally bawl my eyes out every time I tap, even if I wasn't thinking that I was sad. Like, there's something there.
Yeah, there's always something. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I love the shaking. I shake a lot, and I feel like that the shaking really helps me move it all. The other thing that I do is like my absolute favorite is this. I'll get in the car and then I'm driving and I'm just like screaming at all of the things that really have been annoying me, and I'm like, and I'm just like, and I'm just going for it. And then sometimes I'm just like driving, just crying my eyes out as well. But I can see, like, it's not like I'm sitting on the road or anything like that. But I feel like that movement and being in this contained space where I know nobody can hear me and I'm like moving. So if someone did hear me, they wouldn't be able. For me, it's like a really, really good one, just to like let it all out and like.
yes, I love that. And
Yeah.
I'm just remembering, as you're telling that story, I'm just remembering like being in the car and doing that, and then like crying, like crying, like sad tears, but then like at the same time, almost like looking down on myself and like laughing and smiling.
Yeah.
That I can move these emotions and that they're no longer stuck in my body, because that was not a good place to be. And like now it just feels like everything just it just comes and goes, and
Yeah.
you know, the energy comes, the energy of joy and pleasure and sensation, like all of those things. It's more
Beautiful.
vibrant.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. So good. Yeah. And this one as well, I find like it really helps move any sadness too. If ever I feel like I need to cry, I always do that, and then that helps move. I once went to an acupuncture session, and I was and I was in a really bad way, but for some reason I wasn't like allowing myself to cry. And then the acupuncturist was like, "Oh, you just need to cry," and then just went boom, like kind of like really hard here, and then I just burst out into tears.
I love that.
It was so good. It was like, boom.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we just need to cry. It's that simple.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And then so,
simple as well, and it does sound simple, but I also think like a lot of the time maybe we don't feel safe to cry, like we don't have somebody who can hold us. And it's like thing again of like when you're on your own, for a lot of people that feels scary to go there, because there's like this fear that comes up of like, what if I start crying and I never stop?
yeah.
And it's not true, it's just fear, it's false evidence appearing real, but it blocks you from feeling it. And so again, it's like getting yourself into those spaces where you can really be seen in your expression and the fullness of your emotions. You know, in circle, like a lot of the women's live sessions that I run in my group program are based on that circle format, because that's what I started doing when I first started coaching women's circles. And it's so fucking powerful just to let yourself be witnessed in what you're experiencing. Like, it's alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. I was doing a business coaching last year, and every time I showed up on the calls, there was so much in me, and I was like processing so much around school as well, you know, because it was a lot of, you know, like learning as I was growing up was just such a struggle. And so all of this school trauma was coming up. And so I'd come on the calls and I would just be crying and crying. And like, and these women, they didn't know me at all. And then I would be laughing afterwards because I'd be like, oh my God, they will think I'm just such a wet lettuce. And I'm not like that all the time, but I'm fine to cry when I need to cry. But it was so funny because like the other part of me was just laughing. This version of me that they're only getting to see because it was only through the Zoom. It was like, but it was strong. It like brought up so much. Like, ooh, it was deep.
And that's what you needed, you know, and celebrating you for allowing yourself to take that space and to be witnessed in that. That's really beautiful. And I think that's one of the things that always comes out of Fear to Freedom, is like the level of safety that's created in the container, that women feel that they can voice things that they have never told anybody before and be received in that. That's fucking powerful, because when you think about then going out there into the world, and a lot of the time for, you know, solo entrepreneurs, people who are doing businesses that are really coming from that soul place, like going to include sharing some of your story, your experiences, your voice, your values, like all of that stuff. And so you have to unblock that first to be able to go out into the wider world and do that. And that's what excites me more than anything.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I get excited when I talk to women about menstrual cycle work and they've never done it before, don't have any awareness, and literally I see the light bulbs go bum 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 bum, and I'm like, oh, like amazing, it's gonna change your life. This is like life changing. It's just so exciting. So I totally know what you're saying now. It's like when you know like this is actually life changing stuff.
Yeah, and it touches all parts of your life. Like I remember it was the last round I did of Fear to Freedom. There was one woman that came through the program, and she, by the end of it, she was struggling to express herself, struggling to speak in a group, struggling to really like show up authentically on her social media. And when she worked through that, she also started communicating more directly with her partner and like honoring her needs and saying what she wants and desires. And her testimonial at the end was like, I'm signing way more clients, I'm making loads of money, and I'm having fucking great sex. And I was just like,
yeah. Oh my God, amazing. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. And so you talk to us a bit more about Fear to Freedom. So exactly, like, give us the whole thing. We want to know all about it.
Yeah, so it's a 4-month program that you go through that moves you, takes you on a journey from fear to freedom in your business. But as I've said, it can also touch all sorts of parts of your life. And we really go through this excavation process of like uncovering and unpacking and letting go of whatever it is that's holding you back from really showing up in your power, really being in your power, and really bringing that through in your messaging and in your marketing. So there's one side of it is like the emotional journey that you're going on, and the other side of it is around the strategy and like, okay, what are you actually doing, and is that working, and do we need to tweak it, and me kind of sharing all the things that I do behind the scenes in my business as well, that allows me to have the abundance that I have and have the experience and the lifestyle that I have as well. And so you're working through the modules, and then we have every 2 weeks we have a live call, which is like that's where the magic really happens, and everyone comes together and they're like learning from each other, and I'm coaching people live on the call with stuff that's like really alive for them in the moment. And you're witnessing those transformations and experiencing those moments of transformation together, right, with other women who are also going through similar things. And a lot of the time people who come to the program, they say like, I don't have any friends that I can speak to about this, or my partner's sick of me talking about my business, like, and actually having like that sisterhood that you can move through that journey with is like really powerful. And what's really beautiful as well is at the end of the program, like I see the friendships and the business partnerships, and even people meet clients in there. And what kind of happens after the program is that everyone stays in touch, and you've got this kind of cheerleading squad, I guess, like you continue to build your business. And so the whole program is kind of like going up to a crescendo, which is take the leap. So you come in with, okay, what is it that I actually want to have done by the end of this program? And that for me is like the masculine coming into play. So this isn't just about we get together every 2 weeks and we cry. Like, yes, that's welcome. And it is absolutely welcome when it happens. And we have a goal in mind. We have something. So I take everyone through this really beautiful visioning process at the beginning, and they decide what it is that they're working towards. And then there are like milestones that they hit along the way. And then by Take the Leap week, everyone's out there doing their thing, on social media, or they're running a program or whatever it is they're doing, and celebrating each other in that as well. So you really get like the whole journey together, and then we integrate it and reflect together at the end as well.
Wow, beautiful. That's so powerful. It's honestly, it's when I was doing the business coaching that I was doing last year, it made such a difference being in a group, and that you're all in it together, and that you're all working to this thing and cheerleading each other on as well. It was really powerful. So I love what you're sharing. I'm like, yes, that's so good. So
yeah,
good.
it's life changing. And like, even like a lot of people come to the program as well because they actually want to create a group program in their business, which is a great, like, not only is it, I feel, sometimes more powerful for the clients, as we've experienced, both of us, but it's also great for you business wise, because my business was kind of going along quite nicely, one-to-ones coming here and there, and then I made the leap to group programs, and all of a sudden my monthly revenue was like literally goes from here to here, and the time that you have to work is less. So again, it really works with this embodied business piece, and more abundance, less time working, more powerful containers. Like it all makes sense. And so a lot of the women that come, they're wanting to do that in their business, and so I'm taking them through this process, and they're kind of implementing that. And like I always find the best way to learn something is to actually experience it and embody it, and then you can create it for yourself. So I'm very transparent about everything that I do in my business. You know, if somebody's in my container and they want to know, so how did you design your group program? What were you thinking about? I'll share everything. And so that's what's been really beautiful over the last couple of years. I've seen women come and do my group program and then do their own as well. And it's just like the beautiful ripple effects.
Oh, amazing. So incredible. I love it. Oh, and then, well, is there anything else that you feel that you want to share that is really supportive for female entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and that are on this path, and maybe, you know, that there's like a kind of like stickiness or a push and pull? Like, what is the thing that you say or that people come to you a lot with?
So it really, really is, you know, working through whatever that stickiness is. And you know, I think a lot of the time people want a silver bullet, like they want someone, and you see it all the time on Facebook, all these ads like, hey, follow my 7-step process and you'll be da-da-da. And it's just like absolute bullshit. Like, I'm sure it works for them, but it's not about that, because you're an individual, right? And so actually the most potent, creative, you know, expansive beauty that wants to come through your soul into your business, it can't do that if there are these blocks in the way, or it will, but you'll do it in a way that doesn't feel good for you. And those things are equally important. And so it really is about doing the work and finding the coach or the group or whatever it is to support you that feels right, that resonates with you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so true. Because you can have days where you're like, right, I'm going to do this. And then that sticky thing is still there. And it's then you just don't move from it. And until that bit is transformed. And then it's like, oh, I can just move into it.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, there are occasions where it's the doing that helps you with stickiness, but it really needs to be coming from like a gentle place rather than like beating yourself up, like, you need to do this or you should, like shoulding on yourself, right? It needs to be coming from a much more aware place if you're actually going to get to a point where, because anyone can, like, this sounds crazy, but I think that anyone can achieve their goals, anyone can make the money, anyone can do the business bit, but are they actually happy? Are they actually, you know, feeling alive and waking up in the morning and being able to like choose what they do and know that the clients that they're working with, they absolutely fucking adore? Like, that's success. So it's about knowing what your definition of success is as well. And actually for a lot of people, that's not just about the money. It's much, much deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. And I feel like that was a really big piece for me as well. Like when I redefined what I thought success was into actually like being successful is joy. It's like creating something because I want to, because it is creative and it's an expression of my creativity and I want to share that, rather than like, right, it's Friday, I need to make an Instagram reel. That was really uninspiring for me. I was like never doing it because I'm like, don't like that feeling and that pressure. But then I'm like, oh, the light's really beautiful and really want to share this because it's really helping me, or like then that felt like, oh, it feels creative, and then I'm like back in the flow and like wanting to do it again.
Yes, and you're back in the flow because you've moved into alignment. And I think what I often see is, you know, there's a lot of these kind of challenges going around, like, oh, 100 reels in 100 days. Like I literally want to be sick when I see stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God. Like in Fear to Freedom, we have challenges because it is important to sometimes be challenged and to be like, right, I'm going to challenge myself. We have visibility challenges throughout to make sure that you are taking action. But the way it's done is like first tapping into your own inspiration and the ways that you can do that. And then challenging yourself, you know, rather than just being like, oh, I have to do this now. Like that just doesn't work.
Yeah. So what's a visibility challenge?
A visibility challenge would be something like a next kind of level of visibility for you. So, for example, if you are on Instagram but you've never done a live, or you've never done a podcast with somebody, or anything like that, basically, or maybe you want to do some more stuff in person, so you want to get a speaking gig or whatever it is. So you define what the challenge is, but it's everyone's doing it together. So you've got that kind of momentum and support in that.
Okay. Oh my God, I love it. So we are so blessed, as you are going to take us through a EFT experience, aren't you?
I am, yes. It's going to be a short EFT experience, just to really. So there are so many practices and embodiment practices and all sorts out there in the world that people can do. And I think what I've always found really important is to use your own discernment as to what actually lands in your body. And so I'm going to take you through a very simple exercise now, just to actually experience, and I know you've done it before anyway, but just for anyone who's watching this who's not done it before, if you have, you can just do it along with us and just notice how it lands in your body. So I'm going to guide you in a short meditation first, and then we'll move into the exercise. So just letting yourself find your seat and arrive in the space and in your body. Taking some deep breaths, sighing out through the mouth. Taking the deepest breath you've taken yet today. Really letting everything go. And making any movements your body's calling for throughout this meditation. And bringing your attention to the top of your head. Allowing the scalp and forehead to release. Allowing the eyes to become heavy in their sockets. Releasing the muscles behind the eyes and underneath the eyes. Releasing the cheeks and jaw. And perhaps finding a little extra space inside of the mouth. Noticing the tongue, the teeth, and your lips. And releasing the muscles in the neck and throat. And just noticing if you're holding on to any unnecessary tension in the shoulders. And just sending your breath to any spaces that might feel tight or tense. Releasing the tops of the arms, forearms, hands, and feet. Breathing into the collarbone as you release the chest. Breathing into the back body as you allow all the little vertebrae of the spine to release one by one. Breathing into the belly. And just noticing what's present for you there. And breathing deep into the womb space and yoni. And noticing what's present for you there. Breathing into the hips and pelvis. And softening through the anus, muscles in the bum, and the tops of the legs. Letting everything go. Releasing the knees, shins, calf muscles, feet, and toes. Just holding your whole body in awareness now. Sending your roots down now from the bottom of your feet, all the way down through the floor, down through the foundations of the building, all the way down to the deep, dark earth, rooting down further and further until you connect with the earth's core. And that grounding, warming energy. And as you breathe in, breathing that energy all the way up through your roots, all the way into your body, receiving that rejuvenating energy. And as you breathe out, sending anything you don't need all the way back through your roots to be recycled by the earth. The Great Mother holding it all. And just continuing that energy exchange with your own breath for a few moments. And when that feels complete for you, with gratitude, drawing your roots back up, all the way through the earth, through the foundations of the building, and all the way back through the floor, and into your feet. And feeling the support of the chair beneath you. And of the earth beneath that. Noticing any sounds around you. Any smells or tastes. And just welcoming the senses. And when you're ready, you can blink the eyes open and come back. So I always share that grounding meditation before I do any tapping, because even though tapping is a regulating practice anyway, it's just good to have that connection and support from the earth. And obviously we're not going to go deep into the tapping today because it's a very short space of time that we have. But we're going to do an exercise called the constricted breathing exercise, because most of us are walking through our day-to-day life with constricted breathing, like we're not using the whole capacity of our lungs. And I think it's the same for how we can be in life. We're not truly receiving the full capacity of life, and so there's a connection there. And even if you do a lot of breath work, this can still be the case if there are emotions and things. I love breath work as well, but it can also still be the case. So first of all, I just want to invite you to just, in your own time, just take a deep breath, as deep as you can take. And you're going to rate out of 100% what percentage of your lung capacity you feel you've used with that breath. And normally I would get people to write that number down, but it might be helpful if you share it with me so we can also see. So I was at about, I think about 65% there.
Yeah, I was at 60.
Yeah. And it might be lower. Some days it's lower for me, some days it's higher. So just noting that down and just being on. When I do this in workshops, I always say, like at festivals as well, like be honest with yourself because you're not getting marked on this. It's not school. So easy to fall into that pattern. Okay, and so now I'm going to show you the tapping points first, and then we're going to do a round of tapping just on that to see if anything shifts. So we always start on the side of the hand. And this is where we do our setup statement. So I'll show you what that is in a moment once I've showed you the points. That's the first point. And then we do the top of the head. And this is a really intuitive practice. So you can really just like move around the head and see what feels nice for you, what feels pleasurable, what feels right. And then we take 2 fingers and we tap at the start of the eyebrow. And these tapping points that we're using, they are junctions on the meridian line. So if you ever see a map of like meridian lines in the body, these points are junctions. So they're where those lines meet. And what that basically means is you're just working your whole system when you follow this pattern of tapping. Yeah, and if you feel to yawn, that's really good. It's the energy being released from the body. So obviously we get taught often to suppress our yawns because it's rude, but actually yawn, please yawn. And also I often burp when I do this, or fart, or need to go to the toilet all of a sudden. So if anything like that happens, just go with it, you know, do what you need to do. Okay, and then tapping underneath the eye. And tapping underneath the nose. And it's normal to sometimes start feeling sleepy as well. That's just your body coming into that state of rest and digest, tapping on the chin. And like I say, it's the cortisol and the adrenaline levels coming down in the body. And really coming to that place of peace. And then tapping just below the collarbone where it becomes fleshy again. And all the while just noticing how this is feeling in your body. Really using it as an opportunity to just sense what's there. Perhaps that's sensations, emotions, even thoughts or visions. And then tapping underneath the body, on the side of the body, where the bra strap would be. I never wear them, but and then taking 2 fingers and tapping over the wrist. And obviously, if you're doing this at home, you can just have the wrist down or wherever's comfortable, but I'm just doing so everyone can see. And then tapping on the side of the thumb where the nail meets the skin. And you're going to do that in turn on each finger. And these hand ones are really, really handy. Unintended pun there. I loved it. Because if you are, you know, doing this for perhaps fear of being seen, and let's say you're doing a live, for example, or you're doing an interview or whatever it is, you can be doing this, you know, underneath the table and nobody's going to know. It's just going to be regulating you the whole time. Yeah, some big releases coming. Love it. Okay, so that's all of the tapping points. So we're going to do one that's called a round. So when you can move through all the tapping points once, that's a round. And if you're doing this on your own at home, you can do as many rounds as you want. You can go as slow or fast as you want. Like there's no kind of right way of doing that, just following that pattern in your own time and way. So we're going to tap now specifically on that constricted breathing. So we're going to start on the side of the hand. Even though, and repeat after me. And also, if I say anything that doesn't resonate, you're never expected to repeat it. Just say whatever feels right for you. So even though I have this restricted breathing, I love and accept myself completely. Even though my breathing is constricted, I love and accept myself completely. And one more time, even though my breathing is constricted, I love and accept myself completely. And then we're going to move to the top of the head. My breathing is constricted right now. I'm not using the full capacity of my lungs. Moving to the start of the eyebrow. I'm only using a certain percentage, and you can say whatever your percentage was, if that's the more specific you can be, the better. So for me, it's even though I'm only using 65%. Tapping on the side of the eye. I know there's more for me there. I know my lungs have a bigger, wider capacity. And I'm going to feel into how it might feel to use that full capacity now. Yeah, just feeling how that feels in your body, noticing what comes up there. Tapping underneath the nose. My body is ready to breathe fully now. And if that doesn't feel quite right or true, you can also say, my body is ready to try breathing fully now. So it's really important that whatever you do when you're going through this tapping, it's authentic and it's true, because I see a lot of people doing scripts and many people say it works for them, but personally for me, I've always found it so much more powerful if it's really your authentic truth that you're tuning into here. Tapping on the collarbones. Oh, it's going to feel so good to breathe fully. All this beautiful oxygen around me. Tapping underneath on the side of the body. This sweet, clean air. I'm so grateful for. I'm so ready to receive. Tapping across the wrist. My lungs can't wait to breathe fully. You okay? Tapping on the thumb, and on each of the fingers in turn. Yes, I can't wait to use the full capacity of my lungs. To receive each breath. To receive the world more fully. And bringing that to a close on the little finger. And just noticing how that feels in your body. And then when you're ready, you're going to take another breath in your own time. And again, just see what percentage you're at now. I think we've lost your sound. Are you on mute? Oh, there we go.
No, I am meeting so that people can have their own experience and not hear me. Whoa, that's amazing. I went up to 85.
Wow. Yeah. And that is often what
Deeper
happens.
breath.
What, sorry?
Much deeper breath.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you're doing this at home and yours has stayed the same or gone down, don't panic. That's okay. If it's gone down, it probably is a kind of message from your body to say you need to do more rounds. Like there's something there that you've now tapped into that you want to release. So just keep tapping and going through and just releasing whatever comes up. If you've stayed the same, again, it might just be that you need to do a few more rounds. But generally, I would say about 90% of people go up within one round. And if you think about the power of that, when you do a session with a practitioner, you're tapping for an hour. That was just the one round that we did. So
Amazing. Whoa, incredible. Oh, thank you so much, Alice. I feel really inspired, actually. I feel like, oh, yes, I can do this, I can do this. Thank you so, so much. And so, for those that are listening to you and they are loving your work and loving your vibe, how can they find you? Where's the best place?
So they can find me on Instagram. So it's at the Self Evolution Coach. Or my website, www.alicecarder.com. And I'm guessing you might tag me or links, whatever, to make it easier for people. Also, always welcome to email me, alice@alicecarder.com, and we can arrange a chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alice. It's been such a joy. I feel like really open and alive and excited as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your passion and your sparkle and your exuberance. It's just, oh, delicious.
Oh, thank you, darling. I've really enjoyed sharing that and having this conversation with you today as well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And thank you so much to everyone that's been listening at My Moon Power as well. Sending you so much love.